Marvel Comics 1962 to 1964. Just how rare are they? And I don't just mean in general, I mean comparing one year to the next. Here we're looking at the 10 most graded Marvel Comics of those 3 years. 3 iconic first years where Marvel was really starting to push new superhero titles. What I want you to notice on this list is looking at the top 10, look at the dates exactly of these comics. Many of the rarest and most valuable of the Marvel Silver Age books are from 1962, but none of them make this list. Now, just based on the assumption that people usually grade books with higher value should mean that they should be higher, but they're simply not out there. But once we hit March 1963, which you'll see is Amazing Spider-Man #1. That is the oldest comic that actually ranks on this list with 3,700 copies. What I find very interesting, look right above it. Amazing Spider-Man 15 has more copies graded. Now, the price difference between those books is dramatic. The fact that there are so many 15s graded, and even with a much smaller price tag, you would think that the #1 should in theory be about 4 times higher if they were published at the same time, due to just how many copies are out there. So there's a couple interesting factors here. So Spider-Man #1 is before Marvel titles are being hoarded by collectors. They're not giving the same attention, but it also proves the point that the print run has to have been smaller. So as the Marvel titles were growing in popularity, they're literally growing in sales month by month. And you can see by 1964, we have some major keys, of course, on this list, but they really dominate the list. The 1962s don't make the list at all, though they really should, based on their demand. So when people ask me, what should I invest in? I basically always tell people, invest in 1963 or older. Once you get to 64, already the books are so common. And if you're collecting any of like the 1968 era, Iron Man #1, things like that, those books are extremely common in comparison. And you might know that Fantastic Four 48 from 1966 is the most graded comic of Marvel of the 1960s. And has thousands and thousands more copies graded than any book on this list. So again, what's interesting about this is we'll never know how many raw copies are out there, but based on the thought that price drives up demand for CGC copies, you would think that we would be seeing earlier Amazing Spider-Man and Fantastic Four issues dominate this list, but it isn't happening. So I just wanted to point out these few things. Again, you can see already the fact that there's a few 9.8s existing. And what I noticed from that is, yes, the numbers are small, but if you look at which titles already even have lots of 9.6s, it's all the 1964 titles. It really does make a difference if a comic is literally just 6 months newer than another issue. Again, if you look at Avengers 1 and 4, again, Avengers #1 should have way more copies graded. And these books are only 6 months apart, 3 issues apart. And yet the Captain America issue in #4 is just so much more common getting graded, even though it has a higher price tag. And you can see clearly that there are more copies out there. So keep that in mind when you're investing based on rarity alone. Not everybody does that, but I do usually encourage it because that is the reason why, in general, Golden Age comics are the most valuable. They're older, they haven't survived, and it's the scarcity of these books which has driven the prices up. And that's always an argument for modern books, is how high can they ever get, because there's just so many copies out there. Anyway, it's just interesting things I like to debate. I'd love to hear you post some comments about all of this, anything you've noticed, anything you think about this. Thanks for watching.